are they really good enough to be an extension of the original line? We're going to find out. And I'm talking Todd McFarlane's Super Powers line. Hey there, DC fans. You know, the best comic book company out there. I'm just kidding, Marvel's great. But I'm a big DC fan, and one of my all-time favorite toy lines is probably actually thinking about it. It's my second favorite toy line of all time, is Kenner's Super Powers line. I've raved about this line. It's so great. There was like really nothing. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff wrong with it, but some of my favorite figures to collect. Some of my favorite lines to like complete. I just think it's such a great line, and I love the characters in it. What Kenner did was fantastic. The boldness of the line, bright colors. But today we're not really talking about the Kenner line. We're going to talk about Toddy Mac's extension of Super Powers. And I kind of want to see if it could live up to the original line and be an extension of what I already have. So it's probably one of my favorite like new lines to collect now. I found myself enjoying the hunt for them, and I've been picking up a lot of them recently. So here's most of what I have here, and I kind of want to go through them, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think. And at the end, we'll see if Todd can live up to the Kenner line. So I'm going to clear the table here, and I'm going to get into the ones that I've gotten recently because they're firing these things out. He's gotten really deep into the line. And I will admit, when the line first came out, I was not a fan. I felt like the figures were too big, the Superman, the Batman. Also, you know, you look at these ones, they kind of almost have like a power stance, you know, spread legs, just like in a super heroic pose. The Batmans, their feet were together. They just looked like very static and stiff. And I was like, well, that's not good. And they were doing like, you know, they did the Jim Lee Hush Batman. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look like it fits in with the Super Powers line. So I was kind of like, I'm out, not doing it. But then he course corrected within like series 2 or 3. And he started making them as if they could live within the original Kenner line. And I was like, oh, okay. You might have me on this, Todd. And that's where I started picking stuff up. I don't remember who my first figure was that I got, but there's a figure here that was on my top 10 figures of 2024 list. And I'm enjoying the hunt. Like I've been going to GameStop recently, trying to pick up the new waves. And I went and I actually found them. And that's exciting when you like go to a store and you find them. And so like going to like a show or a collectible, like a toy vault, I want to go to Target or Walmart or GameStop where they should be at retail and finding them there. And I'm finding them there. And it's awesome. So again, let's get into what I've gotten. And I'm going to give my hot takes on what I think about Todd McFarlane Super Powers line. I'm going to start out with some of the first ones I got. And we're going to start with some Green Lantern Corps. So I got Kilowog here and Guy Gardner. I think it was great that they did Kilowog and that he's so much bigger because he should be. And, you know, he literally looks like he belongs in the Super Powers line. And that's where I was like, wow, okay, it's really good. Now, granted, they don't have the power features, which is fine because those power features didn't really hold up and I don't think they're necessary now. I want the look. I want this guy to look like he actually belongs in the line. So I think that Kilowog is probably one of the best figures they've done. You know, he's got his power ring. He just looks great. You know, Guy Gardner, he looks good also. There's some things where I'm like, you know, because we never got a Guy Gardner in the original line. You know, and he's a super iconic Green Lantern character. Where I tend to have an issue with, and this is kind of a common thing with the line, is our flesh tones. Now, you know, you look back, it's like, you know, Superman, his face was molded in flesh tone. Yeah, his neck was painted, but they matched it to the hands. But when you have a face that is painted a matte flesh tone like his, it loses life to it. Like you look at Superman, even though he's just got blue pupils, like there's kind of a translucent sheen to like the way our skin actually looks. And he looks human. He looks like clay. Like the tones are different. I would have liked to have seen him match the tones from the original line. Like on my Action Force line, I match every single flesh tone to previous figures so that you can swap all the stuff. You know, Robin, he was molded flesh in his legs and his face. Batman, he was not molded flesh, but, you know, I don't know if this is fade, but even his flesh looks better than this guy Garner. He's just too, it's too matte. There's something lifeless about it. And they gave him this great kind of like smirk to him, and he looks really good. It's just, you know, I just don't dig it. Now, I think it was cool that back then they just gave him like blue pupils and, you know, the eyebrows. Now, you know, they didn't do them like G.I. Joe's where they did like the eyelash and then the pupil. They did just the pupil. And there's something cool about that. Here, they changed the eyes so that it's like the eyelash and then the pupil. But I don't know, maybe if you did like, if you look at the Kenner Star Wars line, they didn't do just black pupils all the time. Sometimes it was like an off color, like a brown or a blue or a gray. The black just, it's too intense. I would have toned this down to like a medium gray or a slightly darker gray. The black is just too intense, and you'll notice that on some of the other figures as well. Yeah, but overall, I mean, he's a really good figure. You know, he looks just like him. He's great. So for Green Lantern Corps, I know they did a regular Green Lantern. I don't know if they did a John Stewart. They might have. But again, I'm going to be getting more of these because it'd be great to have a Green Lantern Corps. I want to get Sinestro. He's next on my list. All right, let's see. Who can we get into next? Oh, let's get into these two Jokers. We're going to get into Adam and Booster Gold. I wish I had Blue Beetle because Blue Beetle always hung out with Booster Gold. I'm kind of partial to Booster Gold because I believe he was created by my favorite writer-artist, Dan Jurgens. So, you know, he was kind of a cheesy character. You know, he had the Gambit hair outside, but he's this big collar. They changed his costume up later on. This is more the classic costume. Adam is very simple, but, you know, they look great. I love their bright, vibrant colors. Again, they look like these guys can just live with the rest here. You know, these figures kind of have a matte to them, whereas the old Super Powers, they had a little bit of a glossiness to them, which I probably would have liked to see more of. But again, I've said it in videos, it's hard to replicate when you're taking the technology they had here in, was this 84, 85, and you're trying to copy that. Like this was the technology, and this was the top of it here. So it's like us doing Marvel Legends Star Wars Black Series, like best figures. But now you're trying to go backwards and create something that looks like this, even though you have better technology now. And there's always something that looks a bit off. The Indiana Jones line looked off. The Star Wars Retro Collection looks off. It's just, I can't put my finger out. I just know that they're missing something. But these figures also, you know, they're great. But again, where they suffer are the flesh tones. Like Adam's flesh tone is like this weird grayish tan. Booster Gold is like this pale tan. It doesn't have that peachy, you know, warmth to it. It looks dead. Like he looks like a corpse. They look dead. And again, when I was saying with the pupils on Guy Gardner, you know, Adam suffers the same thing where he's got these big, stark, black, giant pupils. It's like, you know, you can do this on him or I don't know, do something. But this isn't working. They just look lifeless, you know, and I want these figures to feel like they're hopping off the comic book page and they have a ton of life to them. But again, you know, yes, it's nitpicky, just saying what I don't like about them, but I think they're great figures. And, you know, normally when I get figures, it's because I love them. And these guys look like they can fit with the line. Oh, let's see. All right, we got Black Manta. Now, this isn't the first one. This is the second one that came out because the first one I think is the blue one, and he's super rare. There's a lot of these figures that are variants and chase figures, like the Reverse Flash. They're super expensive and hard to get. This guy is exactly how he would have looked in the original line. Actually, I take that back. They would have done something crazy, and they would have made this vac metal. They definitely would have, which would have been cool if they did. Or if they molded this head in translucent red so that the eyes look translucent and then paint, because you painted the silver. Now, granted, this is black mold color underneath here. So if you're going to paint this, you could have paid the extra few cents and painted that, and then not having to paint the eyes, and then you made them translucent red. It would have just made it pop a little more. But not taking anything away from it, it's a great figure, especially an ambitious figure like Black Manta. To do it and to do it well and to make it look like it was from the line, it was really well done. This, like the styling, the muscles, like they look like they fit. It's the same. So they do a good job with the aesthetics here. It's just the deco. Some of the deco choices are just a bit off, but I love this guy. Too bad Aquaman doesn't look as good. I didn't get Aquaman. All right, let's go. All right, let's do Jay Garrick Flash. This is the first Flash. Very iconic throwback look with his Frisbee helmet here. He looks really, really good. The only thing that they kind of messed up on was the gray hair. You can see down there. They literally made silver the same silver as his dome cap. It's like you could use white or gray. I don't know why they use silver there. Someone would expect a deco up, off. His pupils aren't as big as the rest of them, so he's good. His flesh tone, it's better. It's better than the others. It's not as warm, but it's better. He looks great, because his costume is just cool looking. His lightning bolt looks great. But yeah, he's cool, and he's a character that really does fit in this line because he's like that retro, iconic looking historical character. All right, now I'm going to get into Bizarro. He was on my top 10 figures of 2024. I saw this figure on the shelf and he just jumped out at me. This is such a great figure. And I'm going to put him next to Superman. He's a little beefier, but that's okay. But see how they gave him the wider stance, whereas you look at some of those earlier figures, even Black Manta a little bit. His feet are real close together, but the Batman and Superman, their feet were really close together. Just you want him to look heroic. That's why Bizarro works, because he looks super heroic. Now I wonder, it's like they used a Superman body and they gave him this and a new head, but his head has all sculpt lines in it, but you don't have it on his neck and his hands, which is fine. I wonder if Kenner did him back then, they probably would have done him the same way, like just giving him. Now, Kenner probably wouldn't have done a new head. They probably would have maybe made one of these. They probably would have just painted this head gray, which would have been fine. But Bizarro would have been cool for them to do. The capes are great. They spec very similar. I don't know what this is, if this is nylon or what, or some sort of polyester or something like that. But the tampo on the back looks great. It's the same clip as they did for the old figures. I think that the sewing was a little tighter on these original guys. There's not a lot of overlap stuff here, but there are on some of these newer guys, which is fine, but it's nitpicky. But it doesn't take anything really away from the figure. I think his Bizarro sign is great. Kenner probably wouldn't have painted the black. They probably just gave him a gray necklace here, but he's a fantastic figure. His blue's a little lighter than this blue, but that's fine because I think he should have been this blue. So, but dude, this figure, he's so cool. If he was the only one I got, I'd be happy with it because he's really that good. But. All right, let's get into the greatest superhero ever. Let's show all my Batman. Show all my Batman. And, we'll talk about Robin at the same time because he can kind of get lumped in here too. So they've done a bunch of different Batman before these two. And then I saw that they were doing this version with the black on the mask, very reminiscent of Neil Adams, who I think is one of the greatest Batman artists out there. And I said, I need that Batman. But the crazy thing was, he was a regular version. He was the Chase. And I'm like, why are you going to make the better version of the Chase? I get it. But this is going to be the version everyone wants. So make more of him and then make him the Chase. People will still want this one because he's the Chase, but don't apply the Chase to, this iconic look. I felt like they messed up there. But he looks so good. Now, yeah, his blue, this blue is better than this blue. This is more like closer to teal. But same thing with Superman and Bizarro. The newer versions are the better versions. But, this is iconic Batman. But again, they look like he fits in the line. They got the flesh tone pretty good. It's better. It won't be on the other Batman I show you. But it's kind of cool that we got the black and gray, which he was really never this way in the comics. But this is iconic Batman right here. But see what I mean here? See the extra material? Like the clip ends there, and then you have, a good 1/4 inch of extra material here. And it's just, it would have been nice if they just trimmed some of that. And, the black suit one doesn't have as much, but there's like all this extra material here. But that's fine. Great head sculpt. This is Super Powers Batman right here. I love this figure. So very well done here. Very excited to have both of these. Now, we'll get into the two new ones. These guys were part of a series that, with this Flash, and I think Adam was in there too. But it also had Black Suit Superman, which I haven't been able to find yet. So if there's anyone that has them, let me know. But I'm going to be doing a couple shows. Hopefully I'll be able to find them. I love that they did Black Suit Superman. But this wave was almost perfect. Except, Lobo. I saw Lobo recently on the shelves. And I didn't like him. He should have matched the way this guy was presented. And instead, Lobo looks like he's like from an animated series. He's got this really animated look to him, like his jaw and stuff. And I'm like, he doesn't look like he fits in the line. He looks like you took him from an animated series, which I don't like. I think the whole line should match and it should look like it all belongs in the Kenner line. And that one just didn't. So I didn't get Lobo, but I'm on the search for Superman, but I got all these. Now, here's where some flesh tones get a little messed up. So you got this unmasked Batman, which is great that they did an unmasked Batman. Now, from what I heard, see how his gray is darker? This is like straight Neil Adams Batman, dark. This is lighter gray. I heard they did this Batman with the cowl and the black, but in these dark gray colors. So now I'm on the lookout for that one, which if they did that, great. Now, Batman is awesome. The head sculpt is awesome, but my thing is you painted the hair. So this hair is painted and the flesh is painted. So it's like, well, what mold is it in? Now, if you look real closely, you can almost see a tint of blue in the ear, which means they molded that head in blue. And I don't know why, because no other parts are molded in blue. They're all molded in gray and painted. Now, I could be wrong and I'm seeing some sort of glare, but it looks like I could be wrong. Maybe it's gray. Maybe all the parts are in the same mold. But like with Superman, like, yes, with this Batman, one with a cowl, okay, you paint the face. Fine. But when you're dealing with a full flesh tone face, you gotta mold it because he looks dead. Looks dead, big old pupils, weird tanny yellow looking skin. He looks like he has like jaundice or something. Kenner did the same thing kind of with the vintage Star Wars line, like Jedi Luke. Everyone had nose rubs. So many figures suffered from nose rub because they would mold in the hair color and paint the flesh. You always want to mold flesh and paint hair. Always, 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 always. Because again, the glossiness that Superman has, it makes him look alive. Us as humans, we have sort of a translucent sort of glossiness to our skin. And this is what the figure should look like. So I'm pretty bummed that this Batman suffers from the flesh issue, especially because you painted the hair also and you painted the face. One or the other. Like, give me mold color on one of them. And, it's just too bad because this is such a great figure. But again, maybe they'll get it. Because then you look at the Robin. And I'll pull vintage Robin out here. And they did mold color. So his arms are molded, legs are molded, face is molded. Whereas this one, just the legs and the face are molded. The flesh tone is slightly off. It's a little yellow, but it's not as warm as this one. It's fine, but he looks good. Where I want to nitpick a little bit is with his underoos. Robin had the scale mail like Captain America on his underoos. And it's like, why did you not sculpt that detail in here? Like, why? There's no reason for you to have missed that because you made the sculpt lines for his underwear, but you didn't give him the scales. Like, come on, man. Like, that's easy detail that you missed. Everything else looks great on him. I mean, his cape is huge. Robin always had a short cape. I don't know why they gave him such a huge cape with this figure, but it's fine. That's, I'm not going to harp on that too much. I think he looks great other than flesh being slightly off. But the big thing for me was the detail on the underoos. If it was on the original, you got to put it on the new one. Because, you can't just cut corners here. They did it then. You can't just remove that. If they didn't do it on the original and you didn't do it on the new one, fine. But they did it on the original. You should be doing it on the new one. That's where I'm a little like, Now, if I were a kid playing with these, I remember getting the Death in the Family comics where Jason Todd died. I would treat him as my Jason Todd and him as my Dick Grayson, even though I think this is supposed to be Dick Grayson Robin. I remember when I got these, I had this one and he was Dick Grayson, and I also had the Toy Biz one and he didn't look as good. He was my Jason Todd, so he always died. But yeah, I mean, again, looks good, but just little things that we're missing here. And I'd like to see them improve moving forward. So that was my take on McFarlane's Super Powers line. Now, after going through it all, I got to sit back and ask myself, can it live with these guys? The answer is yes, it can. It absolutely can. And this, like I said, my second favorite toy line of all time. I hold it in such high regard. Yes, there are improvements that need to be done with this line. I think they can and will do it. I don't love every figure, but the figures that I got, I love. And I think these can definitely be on the same shelf as these. I'm totally confident in that. And I will continue getting these as long as they keep looking like this, because they're doing a great job with the ones that look very retro. So again, hopefully someone at McFarlane sees it and they're like, good call on the flesh. Mold your flesh tones. Mold them. Make them a little warmer. It's okay. Don't make those dead, yellowy, tan, grayish flesh tones. We want life to these figures. But again, I think Todd McFarlane did a great job with this new Super Powers line. He course corrected. And the stuff that is coming out now is definitely worthy of living with Kenner Super Powers.